Take a look at this angle. Behind Ulf we see the edge of the Riverlands army in front of Tumbleton. This means that from the front, Silverwing would be positioned off to the right up on a hill. If you look to the left of the Riverlands army from the view of Silverwing, there appears to be an area of the city behind him without the Riverlands army covering the ground. Perhaps Ulf took an exit from the back and made it to Silverwing that way, unable to be seen from a distance. How did Ulf the White actually get past Daemon's army to his dragon Silverwing during the first battle of Tumbleton? Today we're going to go over the actual facts using screenshotted angles from the show House of the Dragon and take into consideration some of the fans' thoughts from this post here on Reddit. It was posted on the House of the Dragon subreddit. Let's get started. So this post is by WeirdAnt1729 and the post reads, "How did Ulf get to his dragon?" It then goes on to say, "Just watch the finale of Series 3. The bit really sticking with me was 1 second Ulf was in the middle of Tumbleton, under siege, with soldiers fighting throughout the city. Then somehow he just teleported he meant to say, out of the city, straight to his dragon, even with a routine of hightower soldiers, despite the fact minutes before it seemed all hope was lost for the hightower's men. The writing of House of the Dragon has consistently been poor, but unless I'm missing something, this made zero sense to me and took the episode for me from being a good one to a poor one." I can definitely see this poster's angle. Obviously, a bigger part of the problem with later seasons of Game of Thrones was that armies and/or people were teleporting across the map of Westeros, which just, in my opinion, took away from the slow-paced, well-written earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. I think Season 1 of House of the Dragon and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms were both paced well and were on par with Game of Thrones Season 1 and 4, even if it's obviously much different in many ways. So yeah, it's definitely a problem to me and to many others when things like this aren't explained. Ulf literally could have had like a 15-second fighting scene where he's riding on a horse, frightened by enemies, obviously with no fighting experience, and like 4 hightower soldiers die fighting 10 Riverlands soldiers in a chase, and only Ulf and 2 hightowers make it alive to Silverwing. Like, how we seen? Something. Only 15 seconds of an hour-long episode. Someone named Projection responded to Weird Ant's post saying, "Game of Thrones teleport." Small Coda replied, "Exactly. That's how you get from the wall to King's Landing in 20 minutes. Everyone forgets the teleport capabilities in this world. I mean, I'm sure there's a blue police phone box somewhere as well." And this one's funny. Clown Counselor says, "Cregan is the only one playing with fast travel off," referencing Cregan Stark. When Daemon attacks Tumbleton, Ulf is still inside the town. He's literally found by Ormond Hightower, asleep in a drunken state, while Daemon's forces are already breaking into the city. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so we can enjoy a world of A Song of Ice and Fire together and talk all our favorite topics with one another. So, how did Ulf get to Silverwing? In my opinion, the first real reason is that Daemon never completely surrounded Tumbleton. Take a look at this angle. Behind Ulf we see the edge of the Riverlands army in front of Tumbleton. This means that from the front, Silverwing would be positioned off to the right up on a hill. If you look to the left of the Riverlands army from the view of Silverwing, there appears to be an area of the city behind him without the Riverlands army covering the ground. Perhaps Ulf took an exit from the back and made it to Silverwing that way, unable to be seen from a distance. Medieval towns and castles frequently had smaller secondary entrances, sometimes specifically meant for messengers, supplies, or escaping during a siege. And considering Lord Ormond Hightower knew Ulf and Silverwing were his greatest weapons, it wouldn't be surprising if there was already some emergency route planned to get Ulf back to his dragon once he was found. Axel of the Key says, "Jetpacks." Weird Ant 1729 replies, "Finally, a legitimate answer." There's also one other important detail. Daemon's soldiers still believed Ulf was on their side. At this exact moment, Ulf had not openly betrayed Rhaenyra yet, So even if black soldiers spotted him from a distance, and trust me, it would be far, seeing Ulf heading towards Silverwing wouldn't automatically look suspicious. Obviously, the bigger problem is that Ulf is clearly being escorted by Hightower soldiers who don't even look like any of the Riverland houses nor houses made up from winter wolves. So if Daemon's men actually encountered them directly, they probably would have had realized something was wrong. The only Vhagar writes, ever since Game of Thrones decided the walk and talk scenes would all be cut in favor of convenient teleportation, scale has all been but removed from this world. And setting scale aside, characters have frequently been making what should be extremely dangerous trips with ease off screen. The one time this season they decided to show us a travel bit where Cole's doomed forces marched through the countryside slowly from Harrenhal toward Tumbleton, though they thought King's Landing. They do a decent job showing that the paths are treacherous in times of war and that they take time and effort. Even the muddy terrain is an obstacle. Then Alicent la-di-da's the reverse path in an evening with one guard. I do have to agree. And Ares replies, there are 8 dragons or so still around. That's a shit ton of scales, mate. That point may be true. Prioritizing writing that benefits key characters like Alicent teleporting to Harrenhal, while a similar path of soldiers subdued to guerrilla warfare face difficulty the writers thought were more important, or whatever reason, they make one character's struggles evident when another's that may be more difficult seems like a breeze in the wind. United Station 3514 gives his reasoning as to how it happened, and he says, it's likely that they had a secret passage for running off in case of an unsuccessful defense, so he used it to get to the dragon. Or he and 2 guys that were with him killed anyone who tried to stop them. Not every move they make is required to be on screen, especially if it doesn't enrich the plot in any way. The original poster Weird Ant 1729 replied, but without this explained, it breaks the plot. Were the Blacks winning the battle or not? One minute, it was a successful siege and attack. Next minute, Ulf has gone from being caught with his pants down to strutting up to his dragon. Cool Investigator 655 says, it really doesn't need an explanation. When someone gets from one point to another, which is like 1 kilometer away, like others already said, there could be small secret doors, tunnels out of the city. Not every small step needs to be shown in order to work. Blaxican XIX says, you are correct that it doesn't need explanation. It is also lazy writing. Both can be true. Cool Investigator 655 replies, I don't think it's lazy writing. There are so many possibilities how Ulf and 2 guards could go around the army. Could you explain why it is lazy? Ares says, it does when an opposing force is established to be on their way and a timer is ticking. I can't pretend he's wrong. Weird Ant has a good point, but so do the replies. He is only 1 kilometer away on horseback, and there are dragons in the area. If a Riverlands army members seen Ulf and 2 Hightower soldiers, what were they gonna do anyways? To play devil's advocate a bit here, an assumption having to be made to clarify the storyline can sometimes be an indicator of lack of plot, either big or small. This might be an example. Rare Pirate 4113 writes, the reason is bad writing, but not bad writing in the way you think it is. It's pretty obvious that for some reason they didn't encircle the whole town, leaving gates at the other side available to be opened. So he's basically saying that it was bad writing to have the siege itself not surrounding the entirety of Tumbleton, and that's fair honestly. Another redditor by the name Fluffy Mantis 3133 says Ormond would have had a plan in place and lots of people got around. And there's the dragon bond where she might have met him halfway. This isn't Dany with dragons who can fly hundreds of miles an hour. This isn't people going from King's Landing to Winterfell in seemingly a few hours. I really don't want to be bogged down with a show that meticulously maps out how people get around. It feels like complaining for the sake of complaining. Weird Ant 1729 comes in and replies, it, meaning Silverwing, clearly didn't meet him halfway. There was even the squire that Daemon had sent waiting with the dragon. This isn't complaining about how the movement happened over the world, searching for something to complain about. This was literally undoing everything we had seen in the battle so far. What was even the point of having the Hightowers running about, yelling, "Where is Ulf?" when even they can find him asleep in the bog and their enemies have already breached the city walls? the bloke can teleport out and fuck shit up regardless. Function Lonely 6660 replied with a quote from Fluffy Mantis and says, "I really don't want to be bogged down with a show that meticulously maps out how people get around. It feels like complaining for the sake of complaining." And he said, "This is cope." Weird Ants had a strong opinion. The first battle of Tumbleton in the TV adaptation House of the Dragon was showing the blacks have the clear upper hand until Ulf betrays them, right at the perfect moment. All too conveniently, I guess. It is possible he snuck around the army, or by the time anyone realized, they couldn't do anything anyways, or they'd most certainly get burned in the attempt to do anything about it. So I truly do think it's not totally out of the question that Ulf simply rode through another entrance and over to Silverwing. We actually see Vermithor arrive at the battle at one point, and Daemon looks up to him in the sky. Shortly after that, we see Hugh the Hammer dismounted from Vermithor and running to join the Riverlands army, deploying into Tumbleton. In one of the shots from the side, we see Silverwing and Vermithor beside one another. This confirms exactly where they are, how formidable they look, and the actual distance, which we can use to estimate the likelihood something would have been done, or could have been done, if Ulf was spotted going to Silverwing anyways. Thousands of men are moving, fighting, retreating, and losing track of one another. Ulf only needed to travel a relatively short distance through one weak point in Daemon's lines, but the real issue is that the show skips the entire thing. That matters because Ulf reaching Silverwing is arguably the single most important moment of the battle. Not even a quick chase scene where whomever tried to prevent the betrayal is perhaps burned by Silverwing and Vermithor, which would have served as an amazing foreshadowing for Hugh's inevitable betrayal to come. These two fans say the following. Proper Matter 8274 says your question assumes that the writers care about good writing, while Upper Capital 2876 says bad writing means nothing needs to make logical sense, and the audience is being blackmailed into you either take it as we're showing it or you're gonna have a really bad time. So the most likely explanation is that Ulf escaped through an undefended section of the town. If any of Daemon's hosts had seen him being escorted by hightower soldiers and tried to retaliate, they would have died anyways. Keep in mind, this is a pretty far distance from the ground. A chase for Ulf would mean a protective Silverwing and potentially Vermithor, and simply a quicker death. I truly believe it was a mistake not to besiege the entirety of the town on Daemon's part. Maybe they didn't have the numbers because of the town size, who knows. This directly resulted in the biggest turning points plotline to unfold, and going forward, I'm not even sure Ulf will get the benefit of the doubt with the Greens either. That's all I got for this video, guys. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button if you liked what you've seen, and I'll see you next time. Bye.